I just want to talk about morality again. It seems to be exercising quite a few people, including myself right now. And this is really about, I guess, moral dilemmas. Because I don't know, I mean, I guess, yeah, whatever you think about morality, it seems to me that it's most clearly visible at moments of moral choice. You know, a lot of people have been talking about rape situations, and the kind of dramatised version of that that's reiterated is, you know, you're in a situation with a woman and she says no, and that presents you with a moral choice. And the moral choice, of course, should be obvious, but clearly for some people it isn't. A very small minority of people, but some people make, let's say, an unwise choice at that moment. And it's that moment of moral choice which decides the moral fate, really, of the moral character of that person and the fate of the situation. So a lot of it, I think, is about that moral moment. And I think there's a couple of things that fall out of that for me. The first is that you know, a lot of the comments around this have been to do with an assumption of what we would do if we were in that situation. You know, a lot of people are saying, you know, I would never do this, I would never do that. It's only the people who are broken, it's only the people who are psychologically damaged who do that. I don't think there's any evidence for that. I mean, there are, of course, as I've said before in videos, yes, of course, there are a few psychopaths around, and they're relatively easily identifiable and fairly easy to treat, or at least to lock up. But most crimes of violence and most rapes, most war crimes and so on, aren't carried out by psychopaths. They're carried out by people who are completely unidentifiable prior to the event. Not just unidentifiable to other people, but unidentifiable to themselves. The reports that come back from those people are quite often to do with, well, either complete denial, either they just simply don't see that they've done something morally wrong. So from their subjective viewpoint, which is clearly wrong, but their subjective viewpoint, they're never confronted by the moral choice. Or else they didn't think they were capable of it prior to their actually doing it. They didn't realise they were capable of it. So I think all this talk about, you know, I would never do that, it's wishful thinking, I suspect. It's bravado. It's a bit like people saying, I will never talk under torture. You don't know what you're going to do under torture, and you don't know what you're going to do in a moral choice situation until you're placed in that situation. I mean, clearly most of us do make good moral choices. Very few people are rapists, very few people are violent, but there's no way of knowing in advance whether you're one of the lucky few. That's the first thing. The second thing is what it feels like, is this moral choice moment and what it feels like. I mean, speaking purely personally, I can't remember the last time I was in a moral choice situation. They seem to be very, very rare, actually, very rare indeed. I can certainly remember, I've certainly got regrets about moral choices that I've made badly. I mean, nothing serious, but I can certainly look back on my life and think, oh, that was a dumb thing to do. That was a really immoral act. I shouldn't have done that at this point. But certainly at the time I never remember hitting this watershed and making this choice of whether to carry out this act or not. It just never raised itself as a moral choice at all. It's only in retrospect it became available. And if I'm not looking back on it and kind of regretting it because it was a moral piece of morally bad behaviour, then I'm looking back on it and justifying it. And other people are telling me it's immoral and I'm saying no, it's not. So it's a retrospective act. And I think that's probably the case with most moral choices. Very few of us, I think, you know, have the victim in the crosshairs of our sniper rifle and then think, is this a morally good thing to do? I don't think that arises very often at all, really. I suppose just thinking about that is certainly most trainings, and I'm not just talking about military training, I'm talking about kind of psychic training, psychological training, training for health and well-being, paradoxically seems to be about not confronting those moral choices. A lot of the desire that people seem to have is to get into a situation of flow, or get into a situation of effortless action, where everything, nothing is done and nothing is left undone, where everything just kind of everything is just coped with perfectly. You know, everything positions itself at an area of maximum grip, and the world just presents itself to it. That's the psychological state which most people regard as a good one. And a lot of training techniques, as I say, and things like meditation and contemplative techniques seem to be aimed at that kind of a psychological state where you just flow through life non-consciously, or not non-consciously exactly, but non-reflectively, and are not making these, not confronted by these, not constantly being brought up short by choices and indecision. But I think if we are going to be moral beings, then we should be brought up short quite a bit, shouldn't we? I would have thought. We should be constantly thinking, is this the right thing to do? And we shouldn't just assume that our eudaimonia, or whatever it's called, that ability to flow through life, that effortless action that carries us onward, we shouldn't just assume that that's leading us toward the right thing, because chances are it's probably not. I imagine people who are engaged in acts of violence are in a state of flow most of the time. That's certainly the reports that come back. I imagine that people who are committing awful atrocities are carrying it out many times in a state of kind of effortless action. They barely think about what they're doing. It's just flowing out of them in this great coped with set of actions. Yeah, perhaps we shouldn't be so bloody efficient. Perhaps we should be a bit more brought up short and indecisive and reflective and hesitate more, be a bit more self-conscious and unruly, not so Buddhist about everything, I suppose.